James Walker's hand trembled as he held the eviction notice, watching his 9-year-old daughter Maya pretend she wasn't hungry again. 3 jobs weren't enough. His back injury had stolen his career, his pride, and now his ability to keep a roof over her head. When the elegant woman in the $1,000 suit approached their table at the diner, he expected judgment. What he got instead was a proposal that would sound insane to anyone. "Marry me, and I'll help you raise your daughter." But it was what she said next that made his carefully constructed walls come crashing down and revealed a connection he never saw coming. Comment below what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled. James Walker signed the eviction notice with hands that had pulled men from burning vehicles in Kandahar, but now shook, holding a cheap ballpoint pen. The property manager looked away. "I'm sorry, James. I really am. I gave you every extension I could. I know, Marcus. I appreciate it." Marcus shifted his weight, uncomfortable with the whole thing. "You got anyone you can stay with, family?" James thought of his sister Diane in Atlanta, struggling with 3 kids of her own. "We'll figure it out." That was Tuesday. By Friday, James had exactly $432 to his name, a 9-year-old daughter who was too smart for her own good, and 17 days before they'd be on the street. He sat in the corner booth of Rosie's Diner on South Halsted, the same booth where he'd proposed to Lisa 8 years ago, back when he had a future instead of a medical discharge, and a back that screamed every time he lifted anything heavier than a coffee cup. Maya sat across from him, carefully eating her grilled cheese in small bites, making it last. She'd learned that trick 6 months ago, when the money really started running out. 9 years old, and already rationing food like a war refugee. "Dad, you're not eating." She pushed her plate toward him. "You want half?" "I'm good, baby. You eat." "You always say that." Her dark eyes. Lisa's eyes studied him with an awareness that broke his heart. "You said that yesterday too. And the day before." James picked up his coffee instead, letting the bitter warmth fill his mouth so he wouldn't have to answer. The waitress, Rosie herself, had stopped charging him full price 3 weeks ago. He pretended not to notice. The diner door opened, bringing in a gust of Chicago wind and a woman who clearly didn't belong on the South Side. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than James made in 2 months back when he was making anything. Her silver hair was cut short and sharp, and she moved with the kind of confidence that came from never worrying about eviction notices or whether your kid would eat today. James watched her scan the diner, her gaze systematic, purposeful. When her eyes landed on him, something shifted in her expression. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. She walked straight to their booth. James Walker. Every instinct from his 12 years in the Marines went on alert. He shifted slightly, positioning himself between the stranger and Maya. "Who's asking?" "My name is Catherine Stone. I've been looking for you for 2 years. She glanced at Maya, then back to James. "May I sit down? I promise I'm not here to cause trouble." "Then why are you here?" Catherine didn't sit. She opened her handbag and pulled out a photograph, setting it on the table between them. James's breath caught. The photo showed him in desert fatigues, younger, covered in soot and blood, pulling a man from a burning Humvee. Behind him, smoke and flames. His face was caught mid-shout, veins standing out in his neck, every muscle straining. "Kandahar Province, March 15, 2012. Do you remember that day, Sergeant Walker?" James stared at the photograph. He remembered everything. The smell of burning rubber and flesh. The heat so intense it had blistered his hands through his gloves. The screaming, the way the ammunition had started cooking off, rounds popping like hellish popcorn. "Who are you?" His voice came out rough. "I'm Michael Stone's mother. You pulled my son out of that Humvee before it exploded." The diner seemed to tilt slightly. James gripped the edge of the table. "Michael made it home." "He did. Thanks to you." Catherine's composure wavered for just a moment. "He had 5 more years, got married, started a career, had a life. Then complications from his injuries caught up with him last year. But those 5 years existed because you didn't hesitate. Maya was watching the adults with wide eyes, her grilled cheese forgotten. I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am. Michael was a good man, a good soldier. He was my only child. Catherine said it simply, stating fact. And before he died, he made me promise to find you, to make sure you were okay. James felt heat creep up his neck. I'm fine. Catherine's eyes moved deliberately around the diner, took in his worn jacket, Maya's 2 small shoes, the way he hadn't ordered food for himself. Mr. Walker, I didn't spend 2 years and a considerable amount of money tracking you down to exchange pleasantries and leave. I know you're 3 days away from eviction. I know you work 3 part-time jobs that are destroying what's left of your back. I know your daughter wears shoes 2 sizes too small because you can't afford new ones. The shame hit him like a physical blow. Maya looked down at her feet, suddenly self-conscious. How dare you? I know your wife Lisa died 4 years ago from breast cancer. I know you promised her you'd give Maya every opportunity, and I know you're failing that promise right now, not because you're a bad father, but because you're trying to do it alone. James stood up so fast the booth shook. We're leaving. Sit down, Sergeant. Catherine's voice carried command. I have a proposition that will sound insane, but I'm asking you to hear me out, for Maya's sake, if not your own. James looked at his daughter. Maya was staring at Catherine with an expression he couldn't quite read. He slowly sat back down. Catherine slid into the booth across from them, setting her handbag aside with deliberate care. I'm 58 years old. I built a commercial real estate company from nothing after my first husband died. I'm worth approximately $300 million. I have homes in 3 cities and more money than I know what to do with. She paused. I'm also desperately, achingly alone. Michael was my only family. Since he died, I've realized that all the money in the world means nothing if you have no one to share it with. I'm sorry for your situation, but I don't see what that has to do with us. I'm getting to that. Catherine folded her hands on the table. Before Michael died, he kept a list of people who'd saved his life, had his back made a difference. You were at the top. He made me promise that if anything happened to him, I'd find you and make sure you were taken care of. He said, Mom James Walker ran into a burning vehicle to pull me out. He went back for 2 others while ammo was exploding. That man has a family. Make sure they're okay. James felt his throat tighten. So I hired a private investigator. It took time, but I found you. And when I learned about your situation, Catherine's voice softened. I realized Michael had given me something precious, a purpose, a way to honor his memory that actually meant something. What exactly are you proposing? James asked carefully. Catherine took a breath. I'm proposing marriage. The words hung in the air. Rosie dropped a plate somewhere in the kitchen. The crash seemed very loud. Excuse me. A marriage of partnership and mutual benefit, not love, not romance. A practical arrangement where we both get what we desperately need. Catherine's eyes moved to Maya. Your daughter would have everything. The best schools, healthcare, college fund, every opportunity you want to give her but can't. You'd have financial security, excellent medical care for your back, and the chance to actually be a father instead of working yourself to death. And what would you get? James's voice was hard. I'd get to be a grandmother. I'd get family dinners and someone to come home to. I'd get to help raise a child, something I thought I'd lost forever when Michael died. I'd get purpose again. Catherine's eyes were steady, honest. I'm not offering charity, Mr. Walker. I'm offering partnership. You need resources. I need family. We can help each other. Maya spoke for the first time, her voice small. Is this real? Catherine turned to her, and something in the older woman's face softened completely. Yes, sweetheart. It's real. I know it sounds strange, but sometimes the best solutions are the unconventional ones. James felt like he was drowning. This is insane. People don't just... You can't seriously expect me to... I expect you to think about it. Catherine pulled a business card from her bag. I'm staying at the Peninsula. Call me when you're ready to discuss terms, or don't call me at all. But James? She met his eyes. Pride is expensive. Sometimes it costs more than we can afford to pay. She placed $200 bills on the table. For Maya's new shoes. And dinner for both of you. Please. Then she was gone, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive perfume and a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. James stared at the money. Dad? Maya's voice was uncertain. What just happened? I don't know, baby. He picked up the photograph of himself pulling Michael from the flames. I honestly don't know. That night, after Maya fell asleep on their sagging couch, James sat at their tiny kitchen table and Googled Catherine Stone. The results were immediate and overwhelming. Catherine Stone, CEO of Stone Properties. Net worth estimated at $320 million. Featured in Forbes Fortune Business Week. Philanthropist. Board member of multiple charities. Widow of tech entrepreneur Richard Stone. Mother of Michael Stone, decorated Army veteran who died from complications of injuries sustained in Afghanistan. Every article painted the same picture, brilliant, driven, successful. And according to a piece from 6 months ago, notably reclusive since the death of her only son. James found a photo from Michael's funeral. Catherine standing alone at the graveside, her face a mask of controlled grief. Something about that image, the rigid spine, the clenched hands, the absolute isolation, made his chest ache with recognition. He knew what it was like to stand at a grave and face the future alone. His phone buzzed, a text from his sister Diane. How are you doing, really? James looked around their tiny apartment, the eviction notice on the counter, Maya's shoes with the worn-out soles, the empty refrigerator, the bottle of pain pills he was rationing because he couldn't afford the refill. He typed back, "We're okay." The lie came easily now. But as he lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, because his back was screaming and his mind wouldn't shut off, James kept thinking about Catherine's words. Pride is expensive. Sometimes it costs more than we can afford to pay. What would Lisa want? That's what it came down to. If his wife were here, what would she tell him to do? He already knew the answer. Lisa had been practical fierce when it came to protecting Maya. She'd fought cancer for 3 years with everything she had, not for herself, but to give their daughter more time with a mother. In the end, she'd made him promise. Give her everything, James. Every opportunity, every chance. Don't let pride stop you from getting her what she needs. At 2 a.m, James picked up Catherine's business card. He stared at it for a long time. Then he sent a text. Can we talk? I have questions. The response came within minutes. My sweet. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Bring Maya. She should see what this life could look like. James set the phone down and covered his face with his hands. He wasn't sure if he was making the best decision of his life or the worst mistake, but for the first time in months, he felt something other than desperation. He felt possibility. The Peninsula Hotel lobby made Maya's eyes go wide. She gripped James's hand tighter as they crossed marble floors that probably cost more than their entire apartment building. Dad, this is like a palace. Yeah, baby, it is. A concierge directed them to the penthouse elevator. As they rode up, James caught their reflection in the polished brass. He looked tired, worn, older than 34. Maya looked small and nervous in her best dress, the one they'd gotten from Goodwill for school pictures. They didn't belong here. That much was obvious. The elevator opened directly into Catherine's suite. She was waiting, and James was struck by how different she looked. No power suit today. She wore jeans and a soft blue sweater, her feet bare. She looked human, approachable. Thank you for coming. She smiled at Maya. Hi, sweetheart. I'm so glad you're here. A golden retriever came bounding over, tail wagging frantically. This is Sergeant, Catherine said, as the dog immediately fell in love with Maya. He's terrible at being a guard dog. He thinks everyone is his best friend. Maya giggled, her nervousness melting as she petted the enthusiastic dog. It was the first time James had heard her laugh in weeks. "Maya, why don't you and Sergeant explore while your dad and I talk? There's a game room down the hall with a TV and some books. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen." Once Maya was gone, Catherine gestured to the sitting area. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the water dark and restless under the evening sky. "Thank you for coming," Catherine said again, settling into a chair across from him. "I know this is unconventional." "That's one word for it." James stayed standing, too wired to sit. "I need to understand what you're really proposing. The details." "Fair enough?" Catherine pulled out a folder. "I had my lawyers draw up a preliminary contract. Obviously, you'd want your own lawyer to review it, which I'd pay for. But here are the basics." She handed him the document. James scanned it, his eyes catching on phrases that seemed surreal. Legal marriage with separate residences initially, or shared residence with separate bedrooms at the discretion of both parties. Full financial support for Maya Walker, including but not limited to education, healthcare, extracurricular activities, and college fund. Joint custody and parental rights with Catherine Stone, legally adopting Maya Walker with James Walker's full consent and retained rights. In the event of divorce or separation, a settlement of no less than $5 million plus full college fund for Maya Walker remains intact. James's hands shook. This is too much." "It's what Michael would have wanted." Catherine's voice was gentle. "And James, I'm not doing this purely out of obligation. I've thought about this carefully. I want family again. I want a child's laughter in my home. I want someone to cook dinner for, to help with homework, to attend school plays. I want purpose." "What about me?" James met her eyes. "What's my role in this? Just the father you're supporting. You're my partner." Catherine leaned forward. "James, I'm not trying to save you. I'm trying to build something with you. A family. I don't know how to do that alone. I never had the chance. But you do. You've been an incredible father under impossible circumstances. I need that. I need someone who knows how to love a child unconditionally, who can teach me how to be what Maya needs. I don't understand why you can't just help us. Why marriage—" Catherine was quiet for a moment. "Because charity creates obligation and resentment. Because I don't want to be the rich lady who helps the poor veteran out of pity. Because I want this to be real, James. A real family with real commitment. Marriage makes it real." From down the hall came Maya's laughter, as Sergeant apparently did something hilarious. "Can I be honest?" Catherine asked. "Please. I'm terrified of being alone for the rest of my life. I'm terrified of dying in some hospital room with only employees around me. I'm terrified that Michael's death was meaningless, that I'll just exist until I don't, having made no real difference." Her voice cracked slightly. "You have something I've lost. You know how to be a parent. You know how to make a child feel loved and safe. I'm offering money and resources. You're offering something infinitely more valuable." James sank into the chair across from her. "This is the craziest thing I've ever considered." "I know. It could be a disaster. It could be." Catherine met his eyes. "Or it could be exactly what we both need. We won't know unless we try." "What about expectations? Physical expectations?" "Separate bedrooms, no physical relationship, unless both parties want that, which I'm not expecting. I'm not looking for romance, James. I'm looking for partnership and family." Maya appeared in the doorway, Sergeant at her heels. "Dad, you have to see the game room. It has every console, and there are shelves of books and—" She stopped, reading the mood. "Sorry, should I go back?" "No, baby. Come here." James held out his hand. When Maya took it, he pulled her close. "Ms. Stone has made us an offer, a big offer, and I need to know how you feel about it." Catherine explained it to Maya in simple terms. They'd live together as a family. Catherine would help take care of Maya. They'd have a nice house and Maya could go to good schools. They'd be partners. "Would you be my mom?" Maya asked. "I'd like to be something like that," Catherine said carefully. "I can never replace your mom. She'll always be your mom. But I could be someone who loves you and takes care of you too." Maya looked at her father. "What do you think, Dad?" James thought about the eviction notice, about Maya's shoes, about the way his daughter had learned to ration food at 9 years old, about Lisa's final words, "Give her everything." "I think," he said slowly, "that sometimes the right choice is the one that sounds craziest." He looked at Catherine. "I need conditions of my own." "Name them." "I contribute. I'm not just someone you support. I work, I help. I'm a real partner. Maybe I can't contribute financially the way you can, but I contribute something." "Agreed. I'll need help managing properties, overseeing projects. You have construction experience. I could use that." Maya keeps her mother's memory alive. Pictures, stories, everything. You don't try to replace Lisa. "I wouldn't dream of it." Catherine's voice was fierce. "Lisa gave you Maya. I have nothing but respect for her. And if this doesn't work, if we can't make this arrangement function, we separate cleanly. No drama, no fighting. We protect Maya first." "Absolutely." James took a deep breath. "Then I think we have a deal." Catherine's face transformed. For the first time, she smiled fully, and James saw something that had been hidden under all that polish and control. Hope. "There's one more thing," she said. "I'd like to show you both the house, where we'd live. It's in Lincoln Park. I think Maya should see it before we make any final decisions." The house was a 3-story brownstone on a tree-lined street where people walked golden retrievers and pushed expensive strollers. It had a yard, an actual yard in Chicago. Inside it was elegant, but not cold. Catherine had clearly prepared for this moment. There was a bedroom already set up for Maya, decorated in purples and whites, with a window seat overlooking the garden. "Is this mine?" Maya whispered, touching the bookshelf like it might disappear. "If you want it to be," Catherine said. Maya turned to her father, and James saw tears in her eyes. "Dad, there's a yard. A real yard." He knelt down, pulling her into a hug. "I know, baby. Can we say yes, please?" James looked at Catherine over Maya's head. The older woman's eyes were wet too. "Yeah?" he said quietly. "Yeah, we can say yes." That night in a lawyer's office in the Loop, James Walker signed papers that would change everything. Catherine sat beside him, and when it was done, when they were legally bound in the strangest partnership either of them had ever entered, she held out her hand. "Partners." James shook it. Her grip was firm, steady. "Partners." They told Maya together in the hotel suite with Sargent as witness. She cried, then laughed, then hugged them both so hard James's ribs ached. "When do we move?" she asked. "This weekend," Catherine said, "if that's okay with your dad." James thought about their tiny apartment, the eviction notice, the empty refrigerator. He thought about Lisa and her final wish. He thought about Maya's face when she'd seen that bedroom with the window seat. This weekend is perfect. 3 days later, James carried the last box into the brownstone in Lincoln Park. It was a small box. All their possessions fit in the back of Catherine's SUV with room to spare. That should have been humiliating. Instead, it felt like leaving weight behind. Maya was already exploring her new room. Sargent, her faithful companion. Catherine was in the kitchen unpacking groceries she'd ordered, filling cabinets and the refrigerator with more food than James had seen in one place in years. He stood in the doorway watching her work. She'd pulled her silver hair back in a ponytail and rolled up her sleeves. She looked determined, focused, like she was tackling a business acquisition instead of figuring out where to put cereal boxes. "You don't have to do all that," he said. "I can handle it." Catherine looked up. "I know you can, but I want to. Is that okay?" There was something vulnerable in the question, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to care. "Yeah," James said. "It's okay." That first night they ordered pizza and ate in the living room on the floor because the furniture Catherine had ordered wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. Maya sat between them, eating slice after slice, not rationing, not worried. Just eating like a normal 9-year-old kid. "This is the best pizza I've ever had," she announced. It was just regular pizza. But James understood. It was the first meal in forever where nobody was counting pennies or stretching dollars. It was the first meal where they could just eat. After Maya went to bed, James and Catherine sat in the living room with coffee, the silence comfortable. "Thank you," he said finally. "For what? For seeing us. For caring. For—" He gestured around. "All of this." Catherine smiled. "Thank you for saying yes. For trusting me. For giving me a reason to fill this house with life again." She pulled something from her pocket. A photograph of Michael in his dress blues, young and proud. "I'm doing this for him," she said quietly. "But I'm also doing this for me. Is that selfish?" No. James thought about Lisa, about promises and grief and second chances. "I think it's human." They sat together in the quiet house, two broken people trying to build something whole, and for the first time in a very long time, James Walker believed that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The first morning in the Lincoln Park brownstone, James woke at 500 hours out of pure habit. For a confused moment, he didn't recognize the ceiling above him. Too high, too clean. Then reality crashed back, and he remembered where he was. He was in Catherine Stone's house. No, their house now. Because he'd married her 4 days ago in a civil ceremony that had taken all of 20 minutes. His back protested as he sat up, the familiar grinding pain, a reminder that some things didn't change no matter how expensive the mattress. He'd slept better than he had in months, though. The bed was supportive in ways his old one had never been, and the room was warm. Actually warm. He hadn't realized how much the constant chill of their old apartment had affected his sleep until it was gone. James found his way downstairs, moving quietly. The house was silent except for the soft snoring coming from Sargent's bed in the corner of the living room. The kitchen was spotless, all gleaming counters and high-end appliances he had no idea how to use. He was studying the espresso machine, trying to figure out which button made regular coffee, when Catherine appeared in the doorway. "It's temperamental," she said, making him jump. "Sorry, didn't mean to startle you." She wore running clothes, and her face was flushed. Her silver hair pulled back. She'd obviously been up for a while. "You run?" he asked. "Every morning. 5 miles. Started after Richard died. Needed something to do with the anxiety." She moved past him to the machine, pressing buttons with practiced ease. "Regular coffee." "Please." They stood in awkward silence while the machine hissed and gurgled. Catherine handed him a mug. "Thank you." "You're up early," she said. "Military habit. Can't seem to shake it." "I understand. Michael was the same way. Even years after he got out, he was up before dawn." She paused. "There's a gym in the basement. Equipment for physical therapy if you want it. I had my trainer stock it based on your medical records." James felt the familiar prickle of discomfort. "You read my medical records." "I needed to understand your limitations so I could help properly." "Is that crossing a line?" He wanted to say yes, wanted to be angry about the invasion of privacy. But the practical part of him, the part that had agreed to this whole arrangement, knew she was right. "No," he said finally. "It's just going to take some getting used to, having someone know everything about me." "I can imagine." Catherine sipped her coffee. "For what it's worth, I'm not interested in your past. Only in making sure the present and future work for all of us." Maya's footsteps thundered down the stairs, Sargent at her heels. She burst into the kitchen, already talking. "Dad, did you see my bathroom? It has a tub and a shower, and the towels are so fluffy. And oh, hi, Catherine. Is it okay if I take a bath? I've never had a bathtub before. Just the shower in our old place, and— Maya, breathe, James said, but he was smiling. Catherine laughed and the sound was warm. Of course you can take a bath, sweetheart. Use whatever you want. There's bubble bath in the cabinet under the sink. Really? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Maya hugged Catherine impulsively, then seemed to realize what she'd done and pulled back uncertain. Catherine's face did something complicated. Anytime, honey. After Maya had thundered back upstairs, Catherine stood very still. Her hand pressed to her ribs where Maya had hugged her. You okay? James asked. I haven't been hugged like that in a very long time. Her voice was thick. Michael stopped spontaneous hugging around age 12. Too cool for it. I didn't realize how much I'd missed it until just now. James saw her clearly in that moment. Not the powerful CEO or the wealthy benefactor, just a woman who'd lost her only child and was desperately lonely. She'll do it again, he said. Fair warning, Maya's a hugger. She always has been. Good. Catherine blinked rapidly, then busied herself with refilling her coffee. I should warn you, I have a board meeting today. I'll be gone most of the day. Mrs. Rodriguez, my assistant, will be here at 8 to help with anything you need. And I've arranged for a car service to take Maya to school and pick her up. I can take her to school. Of course you can. But this way you don't have to navigate the bus system with your back. Consider it a convenience, not a replacement. James wanted to argue, but Maya appeared again, this time fully dressed. Dad, what am I supposed to wear? I have my old clothes, but Catherine said she bought me some new things, but I don't know what's appropriate and— Let me help, Catherine said immediately. Come on, let's figure out your first day at your new school together. They disappeared upstairs, leaving James alone with his coffee and the growing realization that his entire life had changed in less than a week. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister Diane. You've been radio silent for days. What's going on? James stared at the message. How did he explain this? Hey sis, I married a woman I barely know, so she could help me raise Maya, and also I live in Lincoln Park now. He typed back. A lot has happened. I'll call you tonight. We're okay. Better than okay. Her response was immediate. That's cryptic as hell. You better call. Catherine's voice floated down from upstairs, patient and warm, as she helped Maya pick out clothes. His daughter's laughter followed, bright and unworried. James thought about the eviction notice that would have been executed this week, about the empty refrigerator and the fear that had become his constant companion, about Maya's 2 small shoes and the way she'd learned to ration food. All of it was gone. Just gone. He should feel relieved, grateful. And he did. But underneath was something else. Something that felt uncomfortably like guilt. Maya's new school was in Lincoln Park, a private academy that cost more per year than James used to make in 2. Catherine had enrolled her over the weekend, smoothing the way with donations and connections James couldn't begin to fathom. He sat in the principal's office while Catherine handled the paperwork, watching through the window, as Maya explored the library with a student ambassador. The school had a library that looked like something from a movie. Computer labs, an actual theater, a soccer field. Mr. Walker? He turned to find Principal Anderson, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, studying him. Ms. Stone has been very generous to our school. Maya is lucky to have such supportive parents. Parents, plural. As if he and Catherine were a real couple instead of business partners playing house. We just want what's best for Maya. Of course. Anderson smiled. I've reviewed her transcripts from her previous school. She's a bright girl. I think she'll do very well here. After the principal left, James sat alone in the office feeling overwhelmed. Catherine appeared in the doorway. They're giving her a tour. We have a few minutes. She sat down beside him. Talk to me. What's going on in your head? This is a lot. I know. I mean, 3 days ago we were facing eviction. Now Maya's enrolling in a school that costs more than I used to make in a year, and we're living in a house I couldn't afford in 3 lifetimes. And I'm married to a woman I've known for less than 2 weeks. The words tumbled out. How is this my life? Catherine was quiet for a moment. Are you having regrets? No, maybe. I don't know. James ran his hands over his face. I'm grateful. Don't misunderstand. But I feel like I'm drowning in a different way now. Drowning in stability instead of poverty. Drowning in obligation. In debt I can't repay. In the knowledge that you're doing all of this and I'm contributing nothing. Catherine turned to face him fully. James, you're contributing everything that matters. You're teaching me how to be part of a family again. You're letting me be there for Maya. You're giving me purpose. Do you have any idea how valuable that is? It doesn't feel equal. Partnership rarely feels equal day to day. Some days one person carries more weight. Other days it shifts. Right now I'm carrying the financial weight because I can. Later you'll carry other weights I can't manage. That's how this works. Maya burst through the door, her face glowing. Dad, they have a robotics club and a soccer team, and the library has like 1,000,000 books, and my teacher seems really nice and... She stopped, reading the tension in the room. What's wrong? Nothing, baby. James pulled her close. Nothing at all. But that night, after Maya was asleep and Catherine had retreated to her own room, James lay awake staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out who he was now. Not the struggling single father fighting to survive. Not the Marine sergeant with a clear mission and purpose. Someone else. Someone undefined. His phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. Can't sleep either. He typed back, no. Want to talk kitchen. James found her there wearing a robe and making tea. She handed him a cup without asking if he wanted one. I've been thinking about what you said today, she began. About feeling like you're not contributing. Catherine. Let me finish. I have a proposition. An actual job if you're interested. James waited. I own 17 commercial properties in Chicago, 8 residential buildings, 3 retail spaces. I have property managers, but I need someone overseeing the managers. Someone who understands construction maintenance safety protocols. Someone I can trust. She met his eyes. You have all that experience from your construction days. I need someone who can visit sites, assess problems, coordinate repairs. It's real work, James. Real contribution. And I'll pay you a real salary. You don't have to. I'm not doing it to make you feel better. I'm doing it because I genuinely need help. My current oversight is minimal, and it's costing me money. You'd be saving me money, actually. Plus, it gets you out of the house, gives you purpose, and most importantly, gives you independence. James felt something loosen in his chest. You really need this? Desperately. I've been meaning to hire someone for 2 years, but I haven't found anyone I trust. You I trust. Why? Because Michael trusted you with his life. Because you've proven yourself under fire literally. Because despite everything you've been through, you haven't become bitter or cruel. You're still trying to do the right thing. She paused. And because I'm a good judge of character. I didn't build an empire by making bad hiring decisions. When would I start? Tomorrow, if you want. I'll have Mrs. Rodriguez set you up with a company phone email access to all the property files. You can set your own schedule around Maya's needs. James felt tears prick his eyes and blinked them back hard. Thank you. Stop thanking me. This is business. But she smiled. Good business, but business nonetheless. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking tea. Finally, Catherine spoke again. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. What was Lisa like? The question caught him off guard. Why do you want to know? Because she was Maya's mother. Because she clearly raised an incredible daughter in the short time she had. Because I want to honor her memory by understanding who she was. James thought about his wife. About her laugh and her stubbornness and the way she'd fought cancer with everything she had. She was a nurse, pediatric ICU. She said it was the hardest job in the world, but she couldn't imagine doing anything else. He smiled at the memory. She was tough, way tougher than me. When she got sick, she didn't cry or ask why me. She just started fighting, made lists of things she wanted to teach Maya before she couldn't anymore. Like what? How to braid hair, how to make her grandmother's mac and cheese, how to stand up for herself, how to be kind even when the world isn't kind back. James's throat tightened. The last thing she said to me was, "Give her everything." She made me promise. Whatever it takes, give her everything. Catherine's eyes were wet. You're honoring that promise. I'm trying. But I feel like I'm betraying her too. I'm married to someone else less than 4 years after she died. We didn't even date. We just signed papers. James, look at me. Catherine's voice was firm. Lisa wanted Maya to have everything. That's what you're giving her. Not betraying your wife's memory, honoring it in the only way that matters. By keeping your promise. I hope you're right. I am. And something else, I'm not trying to replace Lisa. Not in Maya's heart and not in yours. I'm just trying to be someone new. Someone who helps. They finished their tea in silence. When James went back to bed, he fell asleep thinking about promises and second chances, and the strange way life twisted into unexpected shapes. The next morning, Mrs. Rodriguez arrived at 8 sharp with a leather bag full of files, a new phone and a laptop. Mr. Walker, welcome to Stone Properties. She was brisk and efficient, but her eyes were kind. I've worked for Catherine for 12 years. If she trusts you, so do I. Let's get you set up. For the next 3 hours, Mrs. Rodriguez walked him through property files, maintenance schedules, contractor relationships, and current issues. James's head spun with information, but his hands itched to actually do something after months of forced inactivity. This building in Pilsen has had heating complaints for 6 months, Mrs. Rodriguez explained, pulling up a file. The property manager keeps saying it's fixed, but tenants keep calling. Catherine wants eyes on it. I can do that today. Perfect. Here's the address and the manager's contact info. Just observe, assess, and report back. Don't worry about stepping on toes, you have full authority. After she left, James sat with the files spread around him. Real work. Real purpose. Something he could actually contribute. His phone rang. Catherine. Mrs. Rodriguez set you up. Yeah, thank you for this. Stop thanking me. How do you feel about checking out that Pilsen property today? I know it's quick, but already planning on it. Good. He could hear the smile in her voice. James, one more thing. I've scheduled a family therapy appointment for Thursday, just to make sure Maya's adjusting well and that we're all on the same page. Is that okay? Family therapy. Standard practice for blended families. I want to make sure we're doing this right. She paused. Is that overstepping? James thought about it. No, it's smart. Lisa and I did therapy when she was sick. It helped. Okay, I'll send you the details. And James, good luck today. The Pilsen building was a 3-story walk-up built in the 1920s. James met the property manager, Tony Morales, in the lobby. Mr. Walker, Tony Morales. Ms. Stone said you'd be coming by. Tony was nervous, which told James everything he needed to know. They walked through the building together, James asking questions and taking notes. The heating system was ancient, barely functional. Tenants had jury-rigged space heaters that were fire hazards. The building was a disaster waiting to happen. Tony, why hasn't this been fixed? The repairs are expensive, and Ms. Stone's previous oversight told me to make do. Patch instead of replace. Who told you that? Her old property director. Guy retired last year. Since then, I've just been following his protocols. James pulled out his phone and called Catherine directly. How's it going? We need to replace the entire heating system in the Pilsen building. It's not just inefficient, it's dangerous. Tenants are using space heaters that could burn the place down. How much? James did quick math based on his construction experience. $150,000 give or take. Maybe more depending on what we find when we open the walls. Silence on the other end. Then, do it. Get bids from 3 contractors. I want this done right and done fast. Those are people's homes, James. I won't have them freezing or risking fire. You're sure that's a lot of money? It's also the right thing to do. That's why I hired you to tell me what actually needs to be done, not what's cheapest. Get it done. She hung up. James looked at Tony. Get me a list of contractors you trust. We're fixing this properly. Tony's face split into a grin. Yes, sir. Thank God. I've been worried about Mrs. Chen in 2B. She's 76 and has been sleeping in her coat. James thought about his own nights shivering in their old apartment, choosing between heat and food. Get me her information. I want to check on her personally. Mrs. Chen answered her door wrapped in 3 sweaters. Her apartment was ice cold. Mrs. Chen, I'm James Walker. I work for Ms. Stone. We're going to fix your heat. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. Really, I've been calling for months. I know. I'm sorry. It should have been handled already. We're starting tomorrow. In the meantime, James made a decision. I'm sending someone to bring you space heaters today. Good ones. Safe ones. You'll be warm tonight. After he left Mrs. Chen's apartment, he called Catherine again. I need to buy space heaters for the tenants until we can get the system replaced. Safe ones, not the fire hazards they're using now. How many? 24 units. Call it $5,000. Do it. Send me the receipt. Catherine, you're spending almost $200,000 on a building that probably doesn't generate that much profit. James, those are human beings living in those apartments. Families, elderly people. I don't care about profit margins when people are sleeping in coats in their own homes. Fix it. That's an order. He heard the steel in her voice and understood something important. Catherine Stone was wealthy because she was smart and driven. But she'd stayed decent because she'd never forgotten that business was about people, not just numbers. Yes, ma'am. That night at dinner, Maya chattered about her first day at the new school while James and Catherine listened. She'd made a friend named Sophie. Her teacher was nice. The soccer coach wanted her to try out for the team. Can Dad please tryouts are next week? James looked at Catherine, still adjusting to the reality that these decisions were shared now. Of course you can, Catherine said. We'll make sure you have everything you need. After Maya went to bed, Catherine poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to James. How was your first day as property director? Eye-opening. That building has been neglected for years. I know. I'm sorry. After my previous director retired, I didn't replace him properly. I was too buried in grief over Michael to pay attention. People suffered because of my negligence. You're fixing it now. Because you showed me. That's what I meant about contribution, James. You saw what I couldn't see. You're making me a better business person and a better human. That matters. They sat together on the couch, the wine warming them. Sargent sprawled across both their feet. Can I ask you something? James said. Anything. Why did you really choose me, out of everyone Michael mentioned? Everyone you could have helped. Why specifically me? Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Honest answer. Please. Because when I watched you with Maya before I approached you in that diner, I saw something I'd lost when Michael died. I saw unconditional love. Pure, selfless parental love. You were broke and hurting and struggling, but you looked at your daughter like she was the entire universe. I wanted... Her voice cracked. I wanted to be part of that again, to feel that kind of love even secondhand, even as an outsider looking in. James felt his chest tighten. You're not an outsider. I hope not, but I worry that I am, that I'll always be the woman who bought her way into your family. Catherine, you didn't buy your way in. You earned your way in. By caring. By seeing us. By treating Maya like she matters. She does matter. She matters so much. They sat in silence, the weight of honesty settling around them. Finally, Catherine spoke again. I should tell you something. Something I probably should have mentioned before we got married. James tensed. What? I had you investigated. Thoroughly. I know it's invasive and probably creepy, but I needed to know who I was bringing into my life. I hired a private investigator who looked into everything. Your military service, your marriage, Lisa's death, your financial situation, your medical records, even your psychological state. The words hit like a punch. You what? I'm sorry. I should have told you up front. But James, I needed to know if this was safe, for me and for Maya. I needed to understand who you really were. James stood up, anger flooding through him. You had no right. I know. Do you? Because it feels like you think your money gives you the right to invade every corner of my life. It doesn't. You're absolutely right to be angry. Catherine didn't make excuses. But I'd do it again, because I needed to protect myself and make informed decisions. I won't apologize for that, even though I'm sorry it hurts you. James paced the living room, fury and humiliation warring in his chest. What did you find? What secrets of mine did you dig up? That you're exactly who you appeared to be. A good man in terrible circumstances. A father who loves his daughter more than anything. Someone who's been dealt a brutal hand, but hasn't become bitter or broken. Catherine stood too. The investigation made me certain, James. Certain that I was making the right choice. That you were someone worth building a life with. You still should have told me. You're right. I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry I did it. I'm only sorry I didn't tell you about it before we married. James wanted to stay angry. Wanted to rage about the violation of privacy. But the practical part of him understood. If their positions were reversed, if some wealthy stranger had offered to marry him and support his child, wouldn't he want to know everything about them too? What was in the psychological assessment? He asked quietly. Catherine hesitated. You really want to know? Yes. It said you showed signs of severe depression and possible suicidal ideation, that you were isolating socially, that your pride was preventing you from seeking help, that you were at risk for self-harm if your circumstances continued to deteriorate. The words hung in the air, brutal in their honesty. James sank back onto the couch. Was it true? Catherine asked gently. Were you thinking about hurting yourself? James put his head in his hands. I don't know. Maybe. There were nights when I thought about how much easier everything would be for Maya if I just wasn't there anymore. If she could live with Diane and get the insurance money and not have to watch me fail day after day. Oh, James, I never would have done it. I promised Lisa I'd take care of Maya. But did I think about it? Yeah, I thought about it. Catherine sat beside him close, but not touching. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you didn't. And I'm glad I found you before things got worse. They sat together in the quiet house, honesty hanging between them like something fragile and precious. Finally, James spoke. No more secrets. If we're doing this, really doing this, we have to be honest with each other, even when it's hard. Agreed. No more secrets. And I need you to understand something. I'm grateful for what you've done for us, but I'm not broken. I was struggling, yeah, but I'm not some charity case you rescued. I'm a partner, an equal partner, even if my bank account doesn't reflect that. I know. And James, I need you to understand something too. I'm not just doing this for you or for Maya. I'm doing this for me. Because I was drowning too, just in a different way. You think being rich means you can't drown? I was suffocating in loneliness and grief and purposelessness. You saved me too. You gave me a reason to wake up in the morning. We saved each other. James looked at this woman he'd married less than a week ago. This complex, brilliant, grieving woman who'd upended his entire life. Okay, he said finally. We saved each other. I can live with that. Catherine smiled, and it was real. Good, because we're stuck with each other now, for better or worse. That was in the vows, wasn't it? Traditional vows, yes. Ours were more practical. Maybe we should have used the traditional ones. Why? James met her eyes. Because I think this might actually turn into something real, something more than a business arrangement. Catherine's breath caught. James, I'm not saying I'm in love with you. I'm not. But I like you, Catherine. I respect you. I trust you. And that's a foundation. Maybe not a traditional one, but a foundation nonetheless. I like you too, she said softly. More than I expected to. More than I thought was possible this quickly. They sat together in the dim living room, Sargent snoring at their feet, and something shifted between them. Not love, not yet. But something that might grow into it given time and care and honesty. Upstairs, Maya slept peacefully in her room with the window seat and the overflowing bookshelf. Safe, warm, fed, loved. And for the first time since Lisa died, James Walker felt like maybe, just maybe, he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The therapy appointment on Thursday came faster than James expected. He sat in Dr. Sarah Mitchell's waiting room with Catherine and Maya, all three of them nervous in different ways. Maya swung her legs and read a book about robotics. Catherine answered emails on her phone with sharp, efficient taps. James just tried to breathe normally. Walker family. A woman in her 50s appeared in the doorway, her smile warm and genuine. I'm Dr. Mitchell. Come on back. Her office was comfortable without being stuffy. Shelves full of books, a couch big enough for all of them, and a chair where Dr. Mitchell settled with a notebook. So, she began. Catherine tells me you're a newly blended family. About 2 weeks in, is that right? Closer to 3, Catherine said. And Maya, how are you feeling about all these changes? Maya looked at her father, seeking permission. James nodded. It's really different. Good different, mostly. But weird, too. I have my own room now, and I don't have to worry about Dad being able to afford groceries. But sometimes I feel bad about being happy because Mom's not here to see it. Dr. Mitchell's expression softened. That's a very normal feeling, sweetheart. Can you tell me about your mom? She died when I was 5. Cancer. I don't remember a lot about her except she smelled like vanilla, and she used to sing to me at bedtime. Dad talks about her sometimes, but I think it makes him sad, so I don't ask too much. James felt his throat tighten. He hadn't realized Maya was censoring herself to protect him. James. Dr. Mitchell turned to him. How do you feel about Maya asking about Lisa? I want her to ask. I want her to know her mother. But it hurts, Maya said quietly. I can see it hurts you when we talk about her. Yeah, baby, it does hurt. But that doesn't mean I don't want to talk about her. Your mom was the best thing that ever happened to me besides you. I want you to know all the stories. Dr. Mitchell made a note. Catherine, how do you fit into this dynamic? How are you navigating Lisa's memory? Catherine set her phone down, giving the question her full attention. I'm trying to honor Lisa's place in their lives. I don't want Maya to feel like she has to choose between loving her mother's memory and accepting me. I'm not trying to replace Lisa. I'm just trying to be someone new who cares about Maya. And how's that working? I don't know, Catherine admitted. Some days it feels natural. Other days I feel like an intruder. Maya spoke up suddenly. You're not an intruder. You're Catherine. You're different from Mom, but that's okay. Mom was Mom. You're like a special friend who lives with us and helps Dad and takes care of me too. That's a beautiful way to put it, Dr. Mitchell said. Maya, you're very emotionally intelligent for 9 years old. I had to grow up fast, Maya said simply. When Mom died, and then when Dad got hurt and couldn't work as much. You grow up fast when you have to worry about whether you'll have a place to live. The words landed like stones. James felt Catherine go very still beside him. No kid should have to worry about that, Dr. Mitchell said gently. But you did, and that shaped you. How are you feeling now that those worries are gone? Safer, but also kind of guilty. My friend Jamal from my old school, his family is still struggling. Why do I get to be safe when he doesn't? James closed his eyes. His daughter's compassion was beautiful and heartbreaking. That's called survivor's guilt, Dr. Mitchell explained. It's normal to feel that way. But Maya, you getting help doesn't take away from anyone else. It doesn't mean your friend Jamal matters less. It just means you got lucky. I guess. Dr. Mitchell turned to James and Catherine. Let's talk about the marriage. How are you two navigating this unconventional arrangement? James and Catherine exchanged glances. It's an adjustment, James said carefully. We're still figuring out roles and boundaries. Are there conflicts? About what I contribute, James admitted. I was struggling with feeling like a dependent instead of a partner. Catherine gave me a job managing her properties, which helps. And Catherine, how do you feel about that? I feel like James doesn't fully understand his value. He thinks money is the only contribution that matters. But he's teaching me how to be part of a family again. He's helping me heal from losing Michael. That's worth more than any salary. Dr. Mitchell looked between them. It sounds like you both have different love languages. James, yours seems to be acts of service and provision. Catherine, yours seems to be quality time and words of affirmation. You need to learn each other's languages. We're not in love, James said quickly. This isn't that kind of marriage. Isn't it? Dr. Mitchell's eyes were kind but direct. You live together. You're raising a child together. You're building a life together. What exactly do you think marriage is? The question hung in the air. Maya watched them both carefully. What we have is based on practicality, not emotion, Catherine said. We're partners, not romantic partners. And how's that working for you emotionally? Catherine's professional mask slipped. It's complicated. I care about James and Maya deeply, more deeply than I expected to, but I don't know if that's love or just loneliness, finding an outlet. James. He thought about the conversation they'd had the other night, about Catherine's confession that she'd been drowning in grief, about his own admission that he'd thought about ending it all. I respect Catherine. I like her. I trust her with my daughter, which is the highest compliment I can give anyone. Is that love? I don't know. I loved Lisa with everything I had. This feels different. Different doesn't mean less valid, Dr. Mitchell said. Love comes in many forms. What you're building might not look like a traditional romance, but it's still real and valuable. Maya raised her hand like she was in school. Yes, Maya. Can I say something? Of course. I think they're both scared. Dad's scared of forgetting Mom if he loves someone else. Catherine's scared of being rejected if she cares too much. But from where I'm sitting, they already care about each other a lot. They just won't admit it. The adults sat in stunned silence. Dr. Mitchell smiled. Out of the mouths of babes. Maya, you might be the wisest person in this room. After the session, they walked to Catherine's car in silence. Finally, James spoke. She's right, you know. Maya, I am scared. Me too, Catherine admitted. Terrified, actually. Of what? Of this being temporary. Of you waking up one day and realizing you don't need me anymore. Of Maya growing up and not wanting some stranger playing grandmother. Of being alone again. James stopped walking. Catherine, look at me. She did, and he saw genuine fear in her eyes. I'm not going anywhere. Neither is Maya. We're in this. Whatever this becomes, we're in it. You can't promise that. I can promise that I'll try. That I won't walk away when things get hard. That I'll keep showing up. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. No one's ever promised to keep showing up before. Even Richard, even Michael, they left. Not by choice, but they left. Everyone leaves eventually. Not me, not if I can help it. Maya tugged on Catherine's sleeve. He means it. My dad doesn't break promises, ever. Catherine pulled Maya into a hug, then impulsively pulled James in too. They stood there in the parking lot, three people trying to become a family, holding on to each other like lifelines. That weekend, Maya had her first soccer game with her new team. James and Catherine sat in the stands together, thermoses of coffee warming their hands against the October chill. Other parents chatted around them, and James felt hyper-aware of how they looked. An interracial couple with an age gap clearly wealthy given Catherine's clothes and the car they'd arrived in. "They're staring," he murmured. "Let them," Catherine said calmly. "We're not here for them. We're here for Maya." The game started, and Maya was electric. She'd always been athletic, but proper coaching and nutrition had taken her natural talent to another level. She scored 2 goals and assisted on a third. When the final whistle blew, she ran straight to them, sweaty and glowing. Did you see? Did you see? We saw, baby. You were amazing." James hugged her despite the sweat. "Catherine, did you see my second goal? I did that move. You showed me in the backyard." Catherine's face transformed. "You were brilliant, sweetheart. Absolutely brilliant." They went out for pizza after, and James watched Catherine and Maya talk strategy and technique. Catherine had played soccer in college, apparently. She understood the game in ways James never had. They spoke a language together that didn't include him, and instead of feeling excluded, he felt grateful. Maya needed women in her life. She needed Catherine. On Monday, James had a meeting with contractors about the Pilsen building. He arrived early and found Mrs. Chen from 2B waiting in the lobby. "Mr. Walker, thank you again for the heater. I slept so warm last night." "You're welcome, Mrs. Chen. The new system should be installed within 6 weeks. You'll be even warmer then." "Bless you. And please thank Miss Stone. In 40 years of renting, no landlord has ever cared like this." Her words stayed with James through the contractor meetings, through reviewing bids and timelines, through all the practical business of property management. Catherine could have ignored the problem, could have patched and delayed and saved money. Instead, she was spending nearly $200,000 to make sure tenants were warm. That night he told her about Mrs. Chen's gratitude. "She's lived there 40 years and never had a landlord who cared. That says something about you." Catherine looked uncomfortable with the praise. "It says something about the low bar in property management. Basic human decency shouldn't be remarkable. But it is. And you have it." She changed the subject, pulling out her tablet. "I want to talk to you about Thanksgiving. It's in 3 weeks, and I always host a dinner for employees and people who don't have family, usually about 30 people. I'd like to continue that tradition, if you're okay with it." 30 people. I hire caterers. It's not as overwhelming as it sounds. But I wanted to make sure you and Maya were comfortable with it. James thought about past Thanksgivings. Just him and Maya, and whatever frozen turkey he could afford, trying to make it feel festive when it was really just another marker of what they'd lost. "I think it sounds nice. Maya would love it. She's always been social." "Good. Also, my mother wants to meet you both." James felt his stomach drop. "Your mother?" "Eleanor Stone. She's 83 lives in Evanston and has strong opinions about everything. I've told her about you, and she's demanding an introduction." "You told her about our arrangement?" "I told her I got married. She knows it's unconventional, but she's willing to meet you with an open mind. Mostly." "Mostly?" Catherine smiled wryly. "My mother is old Chicago money. She has particular ideas about appropriate matches. A black former Marine with a disability and a child might not be what she envisioned for me." James felt old anger rise. If she's going to have a problem, she won't. Or if she does, she'll keep it to herself because I've made it clear that you and Maya are non-negotiable. But I wanted to warn you. She can be intense. "When does she want to meet?" "This Sunday. Lunch at her house. Fair warning, it'll be formal." Sunday arrived too quickly. James dressed Maya in one of her new dresses and put on the suit Catherine had bought him. Catherine wore a dress and pearls, looking every inch the society daughter. "You look terrified," she said as they drove to Evanston. "I am terrified. I'm about to meet your mother and explain that I married you for money." "You married me for partnership. There's a difference." "Will she see it that way?" "Probably not at first. But Eleanor Stone is many things, and stupid isn't one of them. She'll understand eventually. Eleanor Stone's house was a mansion in the old style, all columns and formal gardens. A housekeeper answered the door and led them to a sitting room where Eleanor waited. She was small and straight-backed, her white hair perfectly coiffed, her eyes sharp and assessing. She looked at James and Maya like specimens under a microscope. "So, you're the man my daughter married?" Her voice was crisp, cultivated. "And this must be Maya." "Hello, Mrs. Stone. Thank you for having us." James's military training kicked in, respectful but not obsequious. "Sit. Tell me about yourself, Mr. Walker." They sat on furniture that probably cost more than his old apartment. Maya pressed close to James's side. "I served in the Marines for 12 years. Got injured and was discharged. Struggled for a while after that. Catherine found me and made a proposition that benefited us both." "A proposition? How delicate." Eleanor's eyes glittered. "She married you to save you. How progressive." "Mother." Catherine's voice carried warning. "She married me to save herself," James interrupted. "She was grieving Michael and needed family. I needed resources to care for Maya. We helped each other." Eleanor studied him for a long moment. "You're honest. I appreciate that. Most men would lie or posture. You just state facts." "Facts are easier than fiction, ma'am." "Indeed they are." She turned to Maya. "And you, child, what do you think of this arrangement?" Maya sat up straighter. "I think Catherine is kind and smart, and she cares about my dad and me. I think we're lucky she found us. And I think if you're mean to her or to my dad, you're going to regret it because we're a family now, and families protect each other." James's heart swelled with pride, even as he wondered if Maya had just torpedoed their chances with Eleanor. But Eleanor laughed, actually laughed a genuine sound of delight. "Good Lord, Catherine, this child has a spine of steel. I like her immensely." "She gets it from her mother," Catherine said quietly. "Lisa was fierce about protecting the people she loved." "Then Lisa raised her well." Eleanor's expression softened. "Mr. Walker, I won't pretend I understand my daughter's choices. A marriage of convenience seems cold to me. But I've watched Catherine grieve for 2 years. I've watched her become a shell of herself. And today, sitting in this room with you and your daughter, I see life in her eyes again. So whatever this arrangement is, it's doing something right. I'm trying my best, ma'am. See that you continue to do so. Catherine is precious to me. If you hurt her, I won't, not intentionally, and if I do accidentally, I'll make it right." Eleanor nodded, satisfied. "Lunch is served in the dining room. Come. I want to hear all about this Thanksgiving dinner you're planning, Catherine." The meal was formal and slightly awkward, but Eleanor made an effort. She asked Maya about school and soccer. She asked James about property management. She told stories about Catherine as a child that made her daughter blush. As they were leaving, Eleanor pulled James aside. "My daughter lost her husband young, and her son tragically. She's been alone too long. If you can give her family, if you can make her happy, then you have my blessing. But Mr. Walker—" Her grip on his arm was surprisingly strong. "Don't mistake kindness for weakness. Catherine is brilliant and powerful. She doesn't need saving. She needs partnership. Can you be her partner?" "Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I'm trying to be." "Good. Then we'll get along fine." In the car, Catherine let out a long breath. "That went better than I expected. Your mother's terrifying." "She is. But she likes you. If she didn't, lunch would have lasted exactly 20 minutes, and you'd never be invited back." "She likes Maya more." Catherine smiled. "Everyone likes Maya more. She's spectacular." From the back seat, Maya spoke up. "Your mom said something to me while you were talking to Dad." "What did she say?" "She said, 'Take care of my daughter, young lady. She needs people who love her.'" "I told her I would. Was that okay?" Catherine's eyes filled with tears. That was more than okay, sweetheart. Thank you. That night, after Maya was asleep, James and Catherine sat in the study with Brandy. It had become their ritual this quiet time to decompress and talk. Your mother asked me if I could be your partner, James said. Not just in name, but really. What did you tell her? That I'm trying. But Catherine, I need you to be honest with me. Am I succeeding? Am I being the partner you need? Catherine set down her glass. You're exceeding every expectation I had. You've taken on the property management like you were born to it. You're an incredible father to Maya. You've made this house feel like a home instead of just where I sleep. And you've been patient with me as I figure out how to be part of a family again. But, James, you're doing everything right. I'm the one who's struggling. With what? With the fact that this was supposed to be practical and unemotional, and I'm failing miserably at keeping it that way. Her voice broke slightly. I'm developing feelings I didn't plan for, feelings that complicate everything. James's heart pounded. What kind of feelings? The kind where I look forward to coming home because you're here, where I find excuses to be in the same room as you, where I imagine what it would be like if this was real in every way, not just on paper. Catherine, I know it's not what we agreed to. I know I'm breaking the rules of our arrangement, but I can't help it, James. You're a good man. You're kind and honest, and you care deeply about the people in your life. How am I supposed to live with you and not develop feelings? James stood and moved to the window, his mind racing. He thought about Lisa and the grief that still lived in his chest. He thought about the promise he'd made to give Maya everything. He thought about Catherine's confession the other night that everyone in her life had left her. I have feelings too, he admitted quietly. I didn't think I would. I thought my heart died with Lisa. But you've woken something up in me, Catherine. Something I didn't think I'd feel again. What are we going to do about it? James turned to face her. I don't know. I loved Lisa with everything I had. Being with someone else feels like betrayal. I understand. But she's gone, and you're here, and Maya adores you, and He struggled to find words. I don't want to be alone anymore either. I don't want to just survive. I want to live. And living means being open to whatever this is becoming. Catherine stood moving closer. What is it becoming? Something real. Something neither of us planned, but both of us need. They stood there inches apart, years of grief and loneliness hanging between them like a physical presence. I'm scared, Catherine whispered. Me too. What if we try and it doesn't work? What if we ruin what we've built? What if we don't try and spend the rest of our lives wondering what might have been? Catherine reached out her hand trembling and touched his face. James closed his eyes at the contact. It had been so long since anyone had touched him with tenderness instead of pity. Can we take it slow? She asked. Can we figure this out together without rushing? Yeah, we can do that. She leaned in and kissed him. It was gentle, tentative, a question, more than a statement. James kissed her back, tasting brandy and possibility. When they pulled apart, Catherine was crying. I haven't kissed anyone since Richard died. 15 years. I'd forgotten what it felt like. How does it feel? Like coming home. They stood together in the study holding each other, two broken people trying to become whole. Outside Chicago, traffic hummed and city lights sparkled. Inside, something new was being born. Something fragile and precious and terrifying. James thought about the eviction notice that had been his reality less than a month ago, about the desperation and fear that had consumed his days. All of it felt like another lifetime now. Thank you, he said against Catherine's hair. For what? For finding me, for caring, for being brave enough to propose something crazy. Thank you for saying yes, for trusting me with Maya, for giving me purpose again. They held each other until the brandy glasses were empty and the house was quiet, except for Sargent snoring from his bed in the corner. When they finally separated, Catherine smiled. This is going to be complicated, isn't it? Probably. But maybe complicated is worth it. Maybe it is. James went to bed that night with the taste of Catherine's kiss still on his lips and hope blooming in his chest for the first time since Lisa died. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if he and Catherine could build something lasting from their unconventional foundation. But he knew he wanted to try, and for now, that was enough. The morning after their kiss, James woke to find a note slipped under his bedroom door. Catherine's handwriting was precise and elegant. Good morning. I have an early meeting but didn't want to leave without saying I don't regret last night. We'll figure this out together. There's fresh coffee in the kitchen. See. James held the note like it was something precious, then tucked it into his wallet, next to Maya's school picture. He found Maya already up eating cereal and reading at the kitchen table. Where's Catherine? Early meeting. She left at 6. Maya studied him with those two perceptive eyes. You look different today. Different how? Happy different, less worried. She tilted her head. Did something happen? James poured coffee, buying time. How did you explain to your 9-year-old that you'd kissed your wife of convenience and it had changed everything? Catherine and I had a good talk last night. We're figuring things out. Are you falling in love with her? James nearly dropped his mug. What? It's a simple question, Dad. Are you... Maya, it's complicated. Adults always say that when the answer is yes, but they're scared to admit it. She went back to her cereal. For what it's worth, I think you should. She's good for you, and she makes you smile again. You haven't smiled like this since before Mom got sick. The observation hit James squarely in the chest. You remember me smiling. You were only 5 when Mom died. I remember everything about before. You and Mom dancing in the kitchen, you laughing at her jokes, the way you looked at her like she was the whole world. Maya's voice was matter-of-fact, but her eyes were wet. I remember being happy. And then I remember you being sad for a really long time. But lately with Catherine, you seem like you're not so sad anymore. James sat down across from her. Does that bother you, that I'm not sad? No, it makes me happy. Mom wouldn't want you to be sad forever, Dad. She told me that before she died. She said, take care of Daddy. Make sure he knows it's okay to be happy again someday. She said that to you, you were 5 years old. She knew she was dying. She said a lot of things those last few days, important things, things I was supposed to remember. Maya pushed her cereal around her bowl. I've been trying to tell you for years that it's okay, but you never seemed ready to hear it until now. James reached across the table and took his daughter's hand. You're the wisest person I know. You know that. I know. It's exhausting being this emotionally mature at 9. But she was smiling. Catherine came home that evening carrying takeout from an Italian place James had mentioned liking. She set the bags on the counter and pulled off her coat, her movements uncertain in a way he'd never seen before. Hi. I wasn't sure if you'd eaten yet, so I brought extra just in case. We haven't eaten. This is perfect. They moved around each other carefully while setting the table hyper-aware of every accidental touch. Maya watched them with barely concealed amusement. You two are being weird. We are not, Catherine said too quickly. You totally are. You keep looking at each other and then looking away. It's like watching middle schoolers. Maya rolled her eyes. Can we just eat and talk normally? Please. James laughed, and the tension broke. They ate and talked about Maya's day at school, about Catherine's meeting with investors, about the progress on the Pilsen building. Normal family conversation, except James kept catching Catherine's eye across the table and feeling heat rise in his chest. After Maya went to bed, they found themselves in the study again. Their ritual space. Catherine poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to James. Maya said we were being weird today. Maya is terrifyingly observant. She asked me this morning if I was falling in love with you, James said. Catherine's hand froze halfway to her mouth. What did you tell her? I said it was complicated. And what did she say to that? That adults always say complicated when the answer is yes, but they're scared to admit it. Catherine laughed a surprised sound. She's not wrong. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Catherine spoke, her voice careful. James, I need to tell you something. About my first marriage to Richard. You don't have to. I want to. If we're doing this, if we're turning this into something real, you should know. She took a breath. Richard and I met at a business conference. I was 26, he was 42. Everyone said he was too old for me, that I was a trophy wife. But we fell in love anyway. Real love. The kind where you can't imagine your life without the other person. He died young, right? Pancreatic cancer. 58 years old. We had 16 years together, and I thought we'd have at least 30 more. When he died, I threw myself into work. Built the business bigger than he'd ever imagined. Made more money than we'd ever needed. All to avoid feeling the grief. And then Michael died. And I had nothing left to hide behind. No child to focus on. No excuse to keep working 80-hour weeks. Just me and my grief and my money in an empty house. Catherine's eyes were distant. I went to a very dark place. Darker than I've admitted to anyone. How dark? Dark enough that Eleanor moved in with me for 3 months because she was afraid I'd hurt myself. Dark enough that my therapist suggested inpatient treatment. James set down his wine glass. Catherine, I'm telling you this because I need you to understand. When I found you, when I saw you struggling with Maya, it wasn't just about honoring Michael's request. It was about saving myself. I needed something to live for, someone to care about, a reason to get out of bed in the morning. So I was your lifeline. We were each other's lifelines. That's what I've been trying to tell you. This isn't one-sided rescue, James. We saved each other. James moved to sit beside her on the couch. I thought about it too, ending it. There were nights when I'd stand on the platform waiting for the L train and think how easy it would be to just step forward. How much simpler Maya's life would be without me failing her every day. Oh, James. But I couldn't do it. Couldn't break my promise to Lisa. So I just kept going one miserable day after another, watching my daughter slowly starve and freeze and lose hope. They sat with that honesty between them. Two people who'd both stared into the abyss and somehow found each other on the other side. We're quite a pair, Catherine said finally. Yeah, we really are. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and James put his arm around her. It felt natural. Right. Like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. Can I ask you something? Catherine's voice was muffled against his shoulder. Anything. Do you think Lisa would approve of us? James thought about his wife. About her fierce love for Maya and her practical approach to life. About her final words to their daughter about making sure he found happiness again. I think Lisa would tell me I was an idiot for overthinking it. She was never one for complicated emotional gymnastics. She'd say, James, you found someone good who loves our daughter and makes you happy. Stop being stupid and hold on to her. Catherine laughed through tears. I like her already. You would have gotten along. You're both strong women who don't take any nonsense. Tell me more about her, please. I want to know the woman who shaped you and gave you Maya. So, James talked. He told Catherine about meeting Lisa in a coffee shop near Camp Pendleton, about their whirlwind courtship between deployments, about the way she'd waited for him through 3 tours in Afghanistan. He told her about Lisa's work as a pediatric ICU nurse, about her terrible singing voice, and her ability to make friends with anyone. He told her about the pregnancy with Maya, about Lisa's joy at becoming a mother, about how cancer had stolen her piece by piece, but never broken her spirit. Catherine listened without interrupting, occasionally wiping tears from her face. When James finally ran out of words, she squeezed his hand. Thank you for trusting me with that. With her memory. She's part of who I am. If you're going to love me, you have to love that part too. I do love that part. It made you the man you are. They sat together until the wine was gone and the house was quiet. When Catherine stood to go to bed, James caught her hand. "Will you stay? Just to sleep. I don't want to be alone tonight." "Neither do I." They went to James's room together, both still fully clothed, and lay down on top of the covers. Catherine curled into his side, and James held her, feeling her heartbeat against his ribs. It wasn't sexual. It was something deeper. Connection. Comfort. Two lonely people finding solace in each other's presence. "Is this okay?" Catherine whispered. "Yeah. This is perfect." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, healing together in the darkness. The next morning, Maya found them still tangled together. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, then smiled and quietly closed the door. When James and Catherine emerged an hour later, she had made pancakes. "Good morning, lovebirds." Catherine turned bright red. James tried not to laugh. "We just slept, Maya, that's all." "Sure, Dad, whatever you say." But she was grinning. Pancakes. Thanksgiving preparations consumed the next 2 weeks. Catherine's annual dinner for employees and strays, as she called it, required serious logistics. James found himself coordinating with caterers, rearranging furniture, and helping Maya make place cards for 32 guests. "Who are all these people?" he asked, reading through the list. "Employees who don't have family nearby, a few business associates, Mrs. Chen from the Pilsen building, and some other tenants, people I've worked with over the years who've become friends." Catherine checked something off her list. "And your sister Diane, if she wants to come." James looked up sharply. "You invited Diane?" "I called her yesterday, offered to fly her and her family up from Atlanta. She said yes." "Catherine, that's a lot of people. And a lot of money." "It's Thanksgiving. Family should be together." She met his eyes. "Diane is your family, which makes her our family. I want to meet her." James pulled her into a hug right there in the kitchen, not caring that Maya was watching and grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Diane arrived 2 days before Thanksgiving, with her husband Marcus and their 3 kids. The house suddenly felt full in a new way, loud with children's laughter and adult conversation. James watched his sister take in the brownstone, the elegant furniture, the obvious wealth, and saw her expression shift from impressed to concerned. That night, after everyone else was in bed, Diane cornered him in the kitchen. "Okay, big brother, explain to me what's actually going on here. You called me 3 weeks ago, barely able to make rent. Now you're living in a mansion in Lincoln Park and married to a woman who owns half of Chicago. Did you hit the lottery or make a deal with the devil?" James poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed her one. "Sit down. This is going to take a while." He told her everything. The eviction notice, the desperation Catherine's proposal, the investigation, the unconventional arrangement that was becoming something real. Diane listened without interrupting, her face cycling through shock, concern, and eventually understanding. "So, you married her for money?" "I married her for Maya, for survival, but it's become more than that." "Do you love her?" James thought about Catherine reading to Maya at bedtime, about her fierce protection of her tenants, about the way she'd held him when he'd shared memories of Lisa, about waking up with her in his arms and feeling for the first time in years like he wasn't alone. "Yeah, I think I do." Diane's expression softened. "Does she love you?" "She says she does." "And Maya?" "Maya adores her. They have this bond I can't quite explain. It's like Catherine knew exactly what Maya needed and became that person." Diane sipped her whiskey, processing. "This is the craziest thing you've ever done, and you jumped out of helicopters for a living." "I know. But you seem happy. Actually happy. I haven't seen you like this since Lisa died." "I am happy. Terrified and confused and still figuring it all out, but happy." "Then I'm happy for you." Diane reached across and squeezed his hand. "Though I reserve the right to kick Catherine's ass if she hurts you or Maya." "Fair enough." Diane met Catherine the next morning over coffee. James watched them circle each other like prize fighters weighing and measuring. Catherine was polite but guarded. Diane was protective but curious. "So," Diane said finally, "you married my brother." "I did." "Why?" "Because he saved my son's life, and I owed him a debt I could never repay. Because I was drowning in grief and loneliness. Because I saw in him and Maya something I desperately needed." Catherine met Diane's eyes steadily. "And because the more I got to know him, the more I realized he was exactly the kind of man worth building a life with." "Do you love him?" "Yes. Not the way I loved my first husband, but deeply and genuinely. James is a good man, the best man I've known in a very long time." Diane studied her for a long moment. "He's been through hell. Lost his wife, lost his career, nearly lost everything. If you're not serious about this, if you're just playing house—" "I'm not. This is real for me, Diane. James and Maya are my family now. I take that seriously." "Good, because he deserves to be happy, and so does Maya." "I know. I'm trying to give them that." Something shifted between them. Not quite friendship yet, but the beginning of understanding. Diane nodded. "Okay then, we're good." Thanksgiving Day arrived with snow flurries and a house full of chaos. Guests started arriving at 2, and by 3, the brownstone was packed with people talking and laughing and filling the space with life. James worked the room making introductions and helping serve drinks, feeling more comfortable in his role as co-host than he'd expected. Mrs. Chen arrived with her grandson, a college student studying engineering. She hugged James like family. "Mr. Walker, my apartment is so warm now. I can't thank you enough." "Thank Catherine. It was her decision." "I thank you both. You're good people." Catherine's employees were a diverse group ranging from young property managers to the 60-year-old accountant who'd been with her since the beginning. They all clearly respected her, but more than that, they genuinely liked her. James watched her interact with them and saw a side of Catherine he hadn't seen before. Warm, funny, engaged. She knew everyone's names, asked about their families, remembered details from previous conversations. Eleanor arrived fashionably late in a town car bearing expensive wine and sharp observations. She surveyed the crowded house with approval. "Catherine, you've outdone yourself. This is lovely." Maya appointed herself Eleanor's tour guide, dragging the elderly woman around to meet everyone. James watched his daughter charm her way through the room and felt pride swell in his chest. Dinner was served buffet-style, guests filling plates and finding seats wherever they could. James ended up at the main table with Catherine, Eleanor, Diane, and her family and Maya. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the clinking of silverware. "Mr. Walker," Eleanor said suddenly, "Catherine tells me you've been revolutionizing her property management." "I'm just trying to make sure tenants are treated fairly." "He's being modest," Catherine interjected. "He's found maintenance issues in half my buildings that previous managers either ignored or didn't notice. He's saved me a fortune in potential liability and improved tenant retention significantly." "So you're not just decorative then?" Eleanor's eyes twinkled. "Mother." Catherine looked mortified, but James laughed. "No, ma'am. I try to be useful as well as pretty." Eleanor cackled with delight. "I like him, Catherine. Keep this one." "I intend to." After dinner, as guests mingled and helped themselves to pie, James found himself on the back porch with Diane and Catherine watching the snowfall. "You've built something good here," Diane said to both of them. "Whatever this started as, it's real now. Anyone can see it." "We're trying," Catherine said. "Don't try, just be." Diane finished her wine. "Life's too short for trying. Lisa taught me that when she was dying. She said, 'Diane, stop trying to be perfect. Just be present. That's all anyone really needs.'" James felt his throat tighten. She said that all the time, especially at the end. She knew she was leaving you and Maya alone, and it broke her heart. But she also knew you were strong enough to survive it and smart enough to find happiness again eventually. She believed in you, James. She'd be proud of what you've built here." Catherine squeezed James's hand. He squeezed back, holding on to her like an anchor. That night, after the last guest had left and the caterers had cleaned up, James and Catherine collapsed on the couch. Maya was spending the night in the guest room with Diane's kids, leaving them alone. "That was exhausting," Catherine said. "That was perfect." "Eleanor likes you. That's significant. She doesn't like anyone. She likes Maya more. Everyone likes Maya more. Our daughter is objectively more charming than either of us." Our daughter. Catherine had said it so naturally, like it was established fact rather than hopeful claim. James felt something settle in his chest. "She is our daughter, isn't it, legally and practically, but also emotionally. You're her mother now in every way that matters." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "I love her so much, James. I didn't expect to. I thought I'd care for her support, her help raise her. But I love her like she came from my own body. Is that crazy?" "No, it's beautiful." They sat together in the quiet house, exhausted and full and happy. James thought about where he'd been a month ago. Desperate and alone and out of options. Now he had a home, a family, a purpose. More than that, he had love. "Catherine," he said quietly. "Yeah, I love you." She turned to look at him, her eyes wide. "What? I love you. Not because you saved us. Not out of gratitude or obligation. I love you because you're smart and funny and kind. Because you care about people. Because you're teaching Maya things I never could. Because you make me want to be better. Because when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I want to do is find you." Tears streamed down Catherine's face. "I love you too. I've been terrified to say it because I thought it would scare you away. I thought you'd think I was trying to replace Lisa or trap you or—" James kissed her, stopping the spiral of words. This kiss was different from their first. Not tentative or questioning. This was sure, claiming. A promise. When they broke apart, Catherine was laughing and crying at the same time. "We're really doing this, aren't we? Turning our business arrangement into a real marriage." "Yeah, we really are." "I'm scared." "Me too. But I'm more scared of not trying. Of playing it safe and missing out on something amazing." Catherine stood and held out her hand. "Come to bed with me. Really come to bed. Not just sleeping. I want all of you, James, if you're ready." James took her hand and stood. "I'm ready." They went to Catherine's room together, leaving behind the last pretense of separate lives. That night they became husband and wife in every sense, not just partners or convenient arrangements. Real, whole, complete. Afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, Catherine traced patterns on James's chest. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. On us. Thank you for finding me, for seeing past the desperation to who I could be with the right support. We make a good team." "Yeah, we really do." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, two broken people who'd somehow become whole by fitting their jagged pieces together. Outside, snow continued to fall on Chicago, blanketing the city in quiet white. Inside, a family slept peacefully, building something beautiful from the ruins of what they'd lost. James's last thought before sleep claimed him was that Lisa had been right. Happiness was possible again. Love was possible again. Life was possible again. And he was grateful beyond words that Catherine Stone had been brave enough to propose something crazy to a desperate man in a diner. That one moment of courage had changed everything. For all of them. The morning after Thanksgiving, James woke to find Catherine already awake, watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "What?" he asked, suddenly self-conscious. "I'm just memorizing this. You here in my bed. In case I wake up and discover this was all a beautiful dream." "It's real." He pulled her closer. "We're real." "I know. But after years of being alone, it's hard to trust that good things can last." Before James could respond, Maya's voice rang through the house. "Dad." "Catherine." Are you guys awake? Aunt Diane is making pancakes and she said I could wake you up. They looked at each other and laughed. Catherine called out, "We're awake, sweetheart. We'll be down in 10 minutes." Maya's footsteps thundered away. Catherine buried her face in James's shoulder. She knows, doesn't she, that things have changed between us. Maya knows everything. She's terrifyingly perceptive. How do you think she'll feel about it? James thought about his daughter's comments over the past weeks, her gentle pushing for him to be happy again, her obvious affection for Catherine. I think she'll be thrilled, but we should tell her properly, together. They found Maya in the kitchen with Diane, both of them covered in flour and laughing. The domestic scene made James's heart ache with happiness. His sister looked over, and her eyes widened slightly clearly, seeing something different in the way he and Catherine stood together. "Well," Diane said with a knowing smile, "someone looks well rested." Catherine blushed, but didn't move away from James. Maya looked between them, processing, and then broke into a huge grin. "Finally, I thought you two would never figure it out." "Figure what out, baby?" James asked, though he knew exactly what she meant. "That you're in love, obviously. You've been dancing around it for weeks." It was painful to watch. Diane snorted into her coffee. Out of the mouths of babes. After breakfast, James and Catherine took Maya into the study. She sat on the couch between them, looking eager and curious. "Maya." Catherine started, her voice careful. "Your dad and I want to talk to you about some changes in our relationship. You're actually married now instead of just pretending." Maya said it so matter-of-factly that both adults paused. "We weren't pretending," James said. "Okay, you were legally married, but not emotionally married. Now you are." "Right." Catherine looked at James, then back at Maya. "Yes, that's exactly right. How do you feel about that?" Maya considered the question seriously. "I feel good about it. You make Dad happy. He makes you happy. You both make me happy. That seems like what families are supposed to do." "But I'm not your mom," Catherine said gently. "I never want you to feel like I'm trying to replace her. You're not my mom. You're Catherine, but you're also kind of like a mom in the ways that count. You help me with homework and come to my soccer games and read to me at night. Mom can't do those things anymore because she's gone, but you can, and you do." Maya looked between them with those wise eyes. "Is it okay if I love you both, Mom and you?" Catherine pulled Maya into a fierce hug, her shoulders shaking. "Oh, sweetheart, of course it's okay. Love doesn't divide, it multiplies." James wrapped his arms around both of them, his family, and felt tears streaming down his face. They sat like that for a long time, three people who'd found each other against impossible odds and chosen to build something beautiful together. Diane left the next day with promises to visit for Christmas. Eleanor called that evening to ask pointed questions about the shift she'd noticed at Thanksgiving. Catherine put her on speakerphone while James listened. "Are you and James actually together now? And don't lie to me, Catherine. I can hear it in your voice." "Yes, Mother, we are." "Good. It's about time. I was beginning to think you'd both stay stubbornly independent forever, out of some misguided sense of propriety." "You knew?" Catherine sounded shocked. "Darling, I've known you for 58 years. I could see you falling for him at that first lunch. The question was whether you'd both be brave enough to admit it." Eleanor's voice softened. "I'm happy for you. Richard would be happy for you too. He never wanted you to be alone." After hanging up, Catherine leaned against James. "My mother just gave us her blessing. Your mother is terrifying and insightful in equal measure. She learned it from raising me." The weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas passed in a blur of normalcy that felt extraordinary to James. He fell into a rhythm with Catherine that seemed natural despite how new it all was. They woke up together, had breakfast as a family, went about their separate days, and came back together in the evenings. On weekends, they went to Maya's soccer games, explored the city, or just stayed home reading and talking. The Pilsen building renovation was completed just before Christmas. James organized a tenant celebration complete with hot chocolate and cookies. Mrs. Chen hugged him and cried, "You didn't just fix our heat, Mr. Walker. You gave us dignity. You made us feel like we mattered." "You do matter," James said, and meant it. Catherine arrived halfway through the celebration, bringing more cookies and her checkbook for a Christmas bonus for all the tenants. James watched her interact with them and saw exactly why her business had succeeded. She treated people like people, not profit margins. That night, as they lay in bed, Catherine told him about a decision she'd been wrestling with. "I want to adopt Maya. Legally, officially. I know we did the paperwork as part of our arrangement, but I want to do it for real. With her consent and yours. I want to be her mother in every legal sense." James propped himself up on one elbow. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. I love that girl like she's mine. If something happened to you, God forbid, I want legal rights to keep her. I want to be able to make medical decisions and sign school forms and all the boring practical things that come with being a parent." "What about the emotional things?" "I already do those. I already love her. I just want the paperwork to match reality." "Then let's do it. We'll talk to Maya after Christmas. Make it a family decision." Christmas morning arrived with snow and excitement. Maya woke them at 6, dragging them downstairs to the tree that James and Catherine had stayed up until midnight decorating. Presents spilled out in carefully organized chaos. James had worried about getting Catherine the right gift. What did you give a woman who could buy anything she wanted? He'd finally settled on something personal, a framed photograph he'd commissioned. It showed the three of them at Maya's soccer game, Maya mid-kick, while James and Catherine cheered from the sidelines. The photographer had caught a perfect moment of them as a family. Catherine unwrapped it and immediately burst into tears. "James, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect." "Look at the frame," Maya said, bouncing with excitement. Catherine turned it over. On the back, engraved in simple letters, "The Walker Stone Family, November 2023. "Maya helped me pick it out," James admitted. "I love it. I love both of you." Catherine set the photo carefully on the mantel. "Okay, my turn." She handed James a small box. Inside was a set of keys. "Keys? To the Pilsen building. I'm signing it over to you. Full ownership." James stared at her. "Catherine, that building is worth millions." "I know. Consider it a wedding gift. And a thank you for everything you've done. You've improved every property I own. You should own one yourself." "I can't accept this." "You can and you will, because I've also arranged for you to be a full partner in Stone Properties. 50-50 ownership. I've been meaning to do it for weeks, but wanted to wait for Christmas." James felt the room spin. "What?" "You're not an employee, James. You're my partner. In business and in life. The paperwork reflects that now." "Catherine, that's your entire life's work. You can't just give me half." "I'm not giving it to you. I'm sharing it with you. There's a difference. We're building something together. The business should reflect that." She took his hands. "Besides, if something happens to me, I want to know you and Maya are taken care of. This ensures it." Maya spoke up suddenly. "Does this mean I have to learn about real estate?" Catherine laughed through tears. "Only if you want to, sweetheart. No pressure." They spent Christmas Day in pajamas, eating too much food and watching movies. Eleanor joined them for dinner, bringing expensive wine and dry commentary. James's sister called from Atlanta, and they all crowded around the phone to talk to her. That night, after Maya and Eleanor had gone to bed, James and Catherine sat by the tree with the lights twinkling around them. "This time last year, I was alone in this house, wondering what the point of any of it was," Catherine said quietly. "I had money and success and absolutely no one to share it with. I'd stopped decorating for Christmas, stopped celebrating at all. It was just another day to get through. And this year, I have everything. A daughter who makes me laugh. A partner who challenges me and supports me. A family. I have purpose again, James. Real purpose. I was in an apartment I couldn't afford watching Maya open one present I'd scraped together money for trying not to let her see how scared I was, James said. I'd stopped believing in good things happening, stopped hoping for anything except survival. And now I have more than I ever dreamed possible. Not just the money or the house. You. Maya having opportunities I could never give her. Waking up next to someone who loves me. Believing in the future again. Catherine kissed him softly. We saved each other. Yeah, we really did. The day after Christmas, they sat Maya down for a serious conversation. She looked between them curious and slightly nervous. Are you having another baby? Because Sarah from school's parents sat her down like this when they were pregnant and... No, Catherine said quickly. No baby, but this is important. This is... James took over. Maya Catherine wants to officially adopt you. We did paperwork when we got married, but this would be different. This would be real adoption with your consent. You'd legally be Catherine's daughter as well as mine. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Would I have to change my name? Only if you want to, Catherine said. You could be Maya Walker Stone, or stay Maya Walker, or become Maya Stone. It's completely your choice. What do you want me to choose? I want you to choose whatever feels right to you. This is about what you want, not what I want. Maya thought about it, her face serious. Finally, she spoke. I think I want to be Maya Walker Stone. Walker, because that's my name from Mom and Dad. Stone, because that's my name from you. Both families together. Catherine started crying again. James pulled them both into a hug. Maya Walker Stone it is. The adoption process took 3 months. There were interviews with social workers, home visits and paperwork that seemed endless. But in March, they stood in front of a judge who smiled at them warmly. I've reviewed this case thoroughly. It's unusual, but beautiful. A child who was struggling now has 2 parents who clearly adore her. I see no reason not to grant this adoption. The judge looked at Maya. Young lady, do you understand what adoption means? It means Catherine becomes my real mom legally. Not replacing my first mom, but adding a second one. That's exactly right. And is that what you want? Yes, Your Honor, very much. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I grant this adoption. Maya Walker Stone, you are now officially and legally the daughter of James Walker and Catherine Stone. Congratulations to all of you. They celebrated with ice cream and a trip to the zoo. Maya insisted on calling Diane immediately to share the news. Eleanor sent a massive flower arrangement with a card that read, Welcome to the family officially. That night, Catherine tucked Maya into bed while James listened from the doorway. I'm glad you're my mom now, Maya said sleepily. I'm glad too, sweetheart. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think my first mom would be okay with this? With me having 2 moms? Catherine smoothed Maya's hair back gently. I think your first mom loved you so much that she'd want you to have as much love as possible. I think she'd be happy knowing you're safe and loved and cared for. And Maya, I promise to always honor her memory, to tell you stories about her, to make sure you never forget how much she loved you. Thank you, Maya yawned. I love you, Mom, Catherine. Catherine's breath caught. I love you too, baby girl. In the hallway, James wiped tears from his face. Catherine found him there and held him. She called me Mom, she whispered, awed. You are her mom. You earned that title. Spring arrived with warmth and new beginnings. James had transformed Stone Properties' approach to tenant relations, implementing policies that prioritized people over profits without sacrificing the bottom line. Catherine had been right. Treating tenants well actually improved profitability through better retention and word of mouth. They celebrated their 6-month anniversary quietly, just the two of them, while Maya had a sleepover at a friend's house. Catherine cooked dinner while James poured wine, and they talked about everything and nothing. "Do you remember what you said that first day in the diner?" Catherine asked. "When I proposed, I said it was insane. You said I don't need saving. But James, we both needed saving. We were both drowning in different ways. And somehow we grabbed onto each other and made it to shore." Mixed metaphor, but accurate. She smiled. "I never thought I'd marry again after Richard. Never thought I'd want to. And I definitely never thought I'd propose a marriage of convenience to a stranger in a diner. Best crazy decision you ever made. Without question." "You?" James thought about the eviction notice that had seemed like the end of everything. About the desperation that had nearly broken him. About the moment he'd said yes to Catherine's insane proposal. "Saying yes to you was the scariest thing I've ever done. Scarier than combat. Scarier than watching Lisa die. Because I was trusting a complete stranger with everything that mattered. But yeah, best decision I ever made." They made love slowly that night, taking their time, celebrating 6 months of building something neither had expected. Afterward, Catherine traced the scars on James's back from his injury. "Does it still hurt?" "Sometimes. But the physical therapy you arranged has helped a lot. I might never be able to do construction work again, but I'm not in constant pain anymore." "Good. I worry about you." "I worry about you too. You work too much." "I'm getting better about that. You've taught me how to prioritize family over business. And you've taught me that accepting help doesn't make me weak." They fell asleep wrapped around each other. Two people who'd started as desperate strangers and become true partners. Maya's 10th birthday arrived in May with a party that would have been impossible a year ago. Catherine had rented out a skating rink and invited Maya's entire class, plus the soccer team. James watched his daughter skate and laugh, surrounded by friends, absolutely glowing with happiness. "She's come so far," Catherine said beside him. "We all have." Maya skated over breathless and grinning. "This is the best birthday ever. Thank you both." "You're welcome, baby girl," James said. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Would it be okay if I started just calling Catherine Mom instead of Mom Catherine? I mean, she's adopted me officially and everything. And it's kind of a mouthful." Catherine froze. James saw tears spring to her eyes. "Maya, you can call me whatever feels right to you. If Mom feels right, then I'd be honored." "Okay, Mom." Maya said it naturally, like she'd been saying it forever. Then she skated off to join her friends. Catherine buried her face in James's shoulder. "I have a daughter, an actual daughter who calls me Mom." "You've had a daughter for months. This just makes it official." "I never thought I'd get this. After Michael died, I thought motherhood was over for me forever. But here you are, mother to the most incredible 10-year-old in Chicago. Mother and wife, to people I love more than I knew was possible." They watched Maya skate until the rink closed, then took a group of giggling girls out for pizza. The house was chaotic with 10-year-olds eating and talking and laughing. James looked at Catherine across the table and saw her joy clearly written on her face. Later that night, after the last parent had picked up their child and Maya had finally crashed from the sugar high, James and Catherine collapsed on the couch. "I'm exhausted," Catherine said. "Worth it, though. Did you see how happy she was?" "I did. And I kept thinking about last year's birthday. She had one present from you, a cupcake with a candle, and she pretended to be happy, while you both pretended you weren't struggling. Don't remind me." "I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to say how grateful I am that we found each other, that we were both brave enough to take a chance on something unconventional." James pulled her closer. "You know what's crazy? This started as a business arrangement, a practical solution to our separate problems. And it became the realest thing in my life." "Mine too. I thought I was rescuing you. Turns out you were rescuing me right back." "We rescued each other, and we built something beautiful in the process." 1 year after their wedding, they stood in the same judge's chambers where they'd gotten married. This time, there was no nervousness or uncertainty. This time, they renewed their vows with full hearts and clear intentions. Maya stood between them, holding both their hands. Eleanor sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes. Diane had flown up with her family. Mrs. Chen and several tenants filled the remaining seats. Judge Chen, who'd married them the first time, smiled warmly at them. "A year ago, you two stood before me, entering into what you called a practical arrangement. I could see potential then, but I wasn't sure you could. Today, you stand before me as a real family, ready to recommit to each other with full knowledge of what that means. James, do you have something you'd like to say?" James turned to Catherine, holding both her hands. "A year ago, I said vows about partnership and respect. Those were true, but they weren't complete. Today I can say what I was too scared to say then. I love you. I choose you. Not out of necessity or gratitude, but because you're the best partner I could imagine. You're brilliant and kind and fierce. You made my daughter feel loved when she desperately needed it. You gave me hope when I'd stopped believing in good things. You're my best friend, my business partner, and the love I never expected to find again. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of your love." Catherine was openly crying. "James, you gave me purpose when I'd lost all reason to keep going. You trusted me with your daughter, which is the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. You taught me that family isn't just blood. It's choice and commitment and showing up every single day. You made me believe in love again when I thought that chapter of my life was over. I promise to spend the rest of my life honoring your trust and loving both of you with everything I have." Judge Chen addressed Maya. "And you, young lady, what do you think of all this?" Maya grinned. "I think they're disgustingly cute together. And I'm really glad I get to keep both of them." Laughter rippled through the small gathering. Judge Chen declared them married again, and this time when James and Catherine kissed, it was witnessed by everyone who mattered to them. The celebration afterward was small, but perfect. Dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant, surrounded by family and friends. James looked around the table at the life they'd built and felt overwhelming gratitude. Mrs. Chen raised her glass. "To family, however we find it." "To family," everyone echoed. That night, after Maya had gone to bed and the house was quiet, James and Catherine sat in their study, their space, where they'd had their first honest conversations, their first kiss, their first admissions of love. "1 year," Catherine said. "It feels like both forever and no time at all. Best year of my life, and I'm including the years with Lisa. Not because I loved her less, but because this was so unexpected. Finding love twice seems impossible, but here we are. Do you think we would have found each other without the circumstances, if you hadn't been desperate and I hadn't been grieving?" James considered it. "I don't know, maybe in another life. But in this one, we needed to be broken to find each other. We needed to be desperate enough to try something crazy. No regrets. Not a single one. Only that I didn't find you sooner. But then again, timing is everything. Maybe we both needed to go through what we went through to be ready for this." They sat in comfortable silence, processing the year behind them and imagining the years ahead. Finally, Catherine spoke again. "Michael would have loved you, you know, and he would have adored Maya. I wish I'd known him better. All I have are memories of one day in the desert. That one day changed everything. For him and for us. He lived 5 more years because of you. And those 5 years led to this moment. It's all connected. I hope he knows, wherever he is. I hope he knows his mother is happy again. I think he does. I like to imagine him and Lisa comparing notes about how stubborn we both were about admitting our feelings." James laughed. "Lisa would have loved you too. You're both strong women who don't tolerate nonsense. I wish I could have known her, could have thanked her for raising such an incredible daughter. You honor her every day by loving Maya the way you do. They went to bed that night wrapped around each other, secure in what they'd built, and excited for what was still to come. The journey from that desperate day in the diner to this moment of contentment had been shorter than it seemed and longer than they'd expected. But they'd made it. Together. And that made all the difference. 2 years after their first meeting, James stood in the Pilsen building that Catherine had given him, watching new tenants move into freshly renovated apartments. He'd turned the building into a model for affordable housing done right. Safe, dignified, well-maintained. Other property owners had started calling him for advice. Catherine found him there, picking her way through construction materials and designer heels that were completely inappropriate for the setting. "You know you can change into sneakers for site visits," he said, kissing her hello. "Where's the fun in that?" She looked around approvingly. "This place looks incredible, James. You should be proud." "We should be proud. This is our work." "No, this vision is yours. I just provide the funding. And the business acumen. And the connections. And the support." She smiled. "Fine hours, but mostly yours." They walked through the building together, James pointing out improvements and Catherine asking smart questions. This was their rhythm now. Partners in every sense. That evening they sat down for dinner as a family. Maya, now 12, talked about her advanced placement classes and the robotics competition her team was entering. She'd grown into a confident, brilliant young woman who moved through the world with the security of knowing she was deeply loved. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Maya addressed Catherine without hesitation. "Of course, sweetheart. You know how some of my friends have started asking about my family situation, about how I have a black dad and a white mom who are different ages." James tensed. They'd known this conversation would come eventually. "What do you tell them?" Catherine asked calmly. "I tell them, you're my family, and that's all that matters. But some of them push for details. They want to know if you're my stepmom, or adoptive mom, or what. What do you want to tell them?" Maya thought about it. "I want to tell them you're just my mom, that it doesn't matter how we became a family, just that we are one. Is that okay?" Catherine reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. "That's more than okay. That's perfect." After Maya went to do homework, James helped Catherine clean up the kitchen. "She handled that well," he said. "She's mature beyond her years. Wonder where she gets that from." "Definitely you. I'm still emotionally stunted." Catherine swatted him with a dish towel. "You are not. You're one of the most emotionally intelligent men I've ever met. Only because you taught me how to talk about feelings. And you taught me how to be part of a family again." They moved around the kitchen in practiced coordination, loading the dishwasher and wiping counters. The mundane domesticity of it all still sometimes caught James by surprise. This was his life now. Normal. Happy. Stable. Later in bed, Catherine curled into his side. "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "What if we wrote a book about our experience, how we built a family from an unconventional arrangement?" James considered it. "You think people would want to read that?" "I think there are a lot of lonely people out there who've stopped believing in second chances. Maybe our story could give them hope." "What would we call it?" "I don't know. Something about finding family in unexpected places. About choosing love even when it's scary." "The marriage arrangement," James suggested. "Too clinical. We need something warmer." They brainstormed titles until they were both laughing at increasingly ridiculous suggestions. Finally, Catherine said, "What about Marry Me Simple, direct, the words that started everything? Marry me how a proposal from a stranger changed 3 lives." Perfect. They never did write the book. Life got too busy with work and Maya's activities and just living. But they told their story often to friends and family, to anyone who asked how they'd found each other. And always the story started the same way. "I was at rock bottom when this elegant stranger approached my table in a diner and said 6 words that changed everything. Marry me, and I'll help you." 3 years in, James woke on a Saturday morning to find Catherine already awake and staring at him. "What?" he asked, suddenly worried. "Nothing. Everything. I'm just happy." Good, happy, or worried happy? Purely happy, grateful happy. I can't believe this is my life happy. James pulled her close. Me too. Every single day, me too. From down the hall came Sergeant's bark and Maya's laugh. The sounds of home, family, love. They'd started as desperate strangers making a calculated risk. They'd become partners, then friends, then lovers, then a real family. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been doubts and fears and moments of uncertainty. But they'd chosen each other over and over again through all of it. And that made all the difference.